Hello and welcome to what can be described as the director's commentary for my recent short film, BitterSweet. If you have not seen that short film, I suggest you go and watch that now, because in this video there's going to be a lot of stopping and I'm going to be going in depth about what each scene pertains as it comes to mind. There's going to be a lot of behind the scenes, there's going to be a lot of spoilers, so if you have not seen the short yet, I highly recommend you go and seek that out now. Without further ado, we're going to get started with the film, and we're going to start with the credits. Okay, so I let the whole thing play through, just so that way you can get an idea of where the story's going from here. Just in case there's a couple of you who decided not to watch the actual film. Basically, I wanted to make it feel kind of dream-esque and get the viewer immersed into the what would be coming forward. We'll be getting into more of the story behind the story later on, but there's particular parts in the credits where I really like the sound design that was created. In particular, the scene or the shot where you get the tea kettle being filled up. I wanted it to seem like you're being drowned by the sound, as later on has come to be that Matthew in the film is drowned with his emotions and what is happening, which we'll get into later on as well. Nothing in the credits is the sounds are not repeated. Everything is unique, right down to the pouring of the tea cups. But without further ado, we're gonna get right back into it. And right here with that sound, again, I wanted to make it foretelling that there's a storm coming for Matthew here, that his life is about to take a completely different turn and nothing is going to be as it was or as it seems.
It'll get cold soon.
There's 2 cups.
Double dose? Right. I'll join you then.
Now, before we go any further, there are certain parts where it might seem a little out of sync. Going behind the scenes a little bit here, I had to have my actors come in and actually voice over all of their lines in a process what is known as ADR, and I wouldn't recommend it for a bigger project, but for this, it was only about 2 or 3 minutes, 2 minutes without the credits. So I was able to really just kind of be flexible with my actors, and thankfully they were very willing to come back in and do their lines over again, and I took what best lines that they could and went with that. And I think that it turned out pretty well. It does kind of lose its authenticity, but it was getting very, very clustered, and the further I went along the editing process and post-production, the sounds were becoming too much, and I was losing a lot of what the actors were saying, so ADR was the best route that I could take.
How's it taste?
Bitter. Where's the sugar?
There is no sugar. I used a substitute.
It's dreadful, whatever it is. What did you use?
Curare.
But isn't that...
Poison. That's right. And it's setting in nicely by the looks of it.
And you notice as there's change in the mood, or there's a certain reveal that's key to the story, such as when she says that there's poison in the tea, the music has a cue shift and it all of a sudden changes as though it's skewed in one character's direction. In this case, it's in the direction of Karen here, who has revealed that Matthew has been poisoned, and the music suddenly shifts in a harsher tonality in her favor.
Sweet as can be. Guess there was some sugar left after all.
Why?
Isn't it obvious? Love.
Now the last two shots, the one with the cup falling and this shot here, I really like to try and push myself when it comes to camera movements and camera techniques. When I figure out a new technique, I like to really try and see if I can implement that into a new piece. What you're seeing on screen here and what just happened is known as the vertigo effect. And it's basically just you are either moving the camera back or forward physically, and you're zooming in at the same time or zooming out at the same time, giving the camera a almost like you're wanting to escape the scene, but you can't quite run away from it, which is what I wanted here with Karen. I wanted it to feel as though you're trying to run away from her, but you can't get away from her. So I pulled back on the camera and zoomed in at the same time to create the vertigo effect and make it feel like you're trying to escape, but you can't. As for the teacup, I like slow motion, so there's that.
Karen.
Don't try pleading with me. Factors are too dim.
Another pause here. In show and in film, making sure continuity is kept is very, very vital. It's not as obvious if I don't point it out, but it could be very obvious if you're really paying attention. Her hair went from being in a ponytail to being in a bun. I tried to keep as much in line with what was going on during production as possible. I made sure that my actors were dressed the same way, postured the same way, nothing physically was really all that different. But then I forgot to make sure that her hairstyle was the same. I mean, it was also the same for my male actor as well. We kept forgetting he had glasses on when he didn't have glasses on, and that could have been more of a mess if he didn't say something. So in reality, most of it is based on the director, and the director needs to make sure that continuity is kept. But for future projects, I would recommend, and this is something for myself but could work for somebody else as well, just try to have it so your actors have accountability for what their characters wear, how they look, and how they move or act. If you're going to be directing and shooting a scene a couple days apart from each other. So if you can't finish the scene in one day, just to make sure that everything is the same the next day. Otherwise you end up with this.
They catch on. I'm the only one who knows what's happening to you.
And that's another thing. Just make sure your actors are always not looking at the camera unless specifically meant to be looked at. For example, when I had the shot with Karen and I did the vertigo effect, I purposely made it so she's looking in the camera to make it a little bit more unsettling. Here, with the shot you just witnessed, unfortunately, my actor, he liked to look into the camera, as is a custom with new actors and talent on screen. They typically can't help themselves. They kind of want to make eye contact with whatever they can find. And typically that ends up being the iris or lens of the camera. And in this case, I just didn't have a take where he wasn't looking at the camera, so I just went with it whatever one he was just glancing out quickly and took that gaze away.
You can't stop me. Nobody can stop me. You'll be this way forever.
Ugh.
And the fun thing about that scenario right there is we missed a line and we had to ADR it in post, which if I didn't have the entire thing ADR'd, you would have noticed because there would have been a mic change. Because I used the microphone outdoors for all this, I did capture all the natural sound. However, we missed the line like I stated, and it occurs in the shot where it reveals in a tilt that Karen is standing behind Matthew. And it's the line of, no one else knows what's happening to you. That line was forgotten. My fault, really, in production. Should have made sure that everything was right on. It was actually supposed to occur beforehand, but ended up ADRing it in, and it looked just fine. It sounded fine. It worked out great. It's just one of those times when you can cheat the camera and cheat the audience, and it just works out perfectly.
What?
Sorry to cut it off there, but here I just like to make another statement. I'm the kind of person that likes to do a reveal of some sort. So this is the point where it is supposed to look like he is still outside, and suddenly it shifts and you come back and we're inside. I just love a good reveal, and it makes a story so much better when you're just not expecting something to happen. It's a little jerky, but I feel like it gets the job done.
Quite the heavy sleeper. I always get my way. Heard that, did you?
And right there, that's supposed to be the reveal that Matthew is asleep this entire time, that she's been whispering in his ear, and he has heard it, and that's what the other scene was supposed to be. It's supposed to be a dream sequence, and his eyebrows twitching is supposed to be him representing he's heard everything. And that actually coincides with the other shot from the last scene where she leans in and whispers in his ear. It's supposed to be representative of that's what's happening in real life. Yeah.
No one else did.
And right there, I really like that because it was kind of a on purpose but accidental lighting technique that I did. You see, as she's moving from the bedside to the door, there's a great shift in color in the lighting. We go from this warm, nice, like 3200 Kelvin lighting at the bedside to represent that she's nice and warm and caring about Matthew in bed and taking care of him. Though granted she is poisoning him, she cares for him and is taking care of him by the bedside. However, when she walks towards the door, she ends up being in more of a cold and harsh blue light, representative of her colder side, her harshness towards Matthew and her longing and cruelty to keep him in that state. And then the door shutting and having another yellow hue tint is representative of the outside world not being able to see her, what really goes on behind the door. That all they see is her being loving and caring to a man who is in comatose. And really, that about wraps up the video. BitterSweet is by far my best film that I've done so far. I feel really great about it. I was able to get together a couple of friends, get the shoot done, get the video done, edit it together. My favorite part of film is when I edit. Though I am finding more of a love for camera work as I become more adept to the camera. And I just love storytelling altogether. Throwing together certain scenes and then seeing what happens and really just entertaining the masses with the stories you can come up with. It's It's just so great. But that'll about do it for my director's commentary on BitterSweet. It's one of the ones that I'll be looking back on later on in my career, maybe 10, 15 years down the road, and say, really, this is where it all began. Where I truly stepped out the door, broke my comfort zone, and just really went at it. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed, and, just keep enjoying film, keep writing film. Just never stop telling stories. And I hope you have a wonderful day. See you later.